Well, you got to stop doing that to me. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Dr. Schilling from Secoya Health, bringing this week's Wednesday Wellness Minutes. And before we get started here, I want to give a brief shout out to our Woodbury Chamber of Commerce. We are, of course, a proud member. They support local businesses and like ours, and support the growth of businesses in the area, especially small businesses, particularly. So I just want to give a quick shout out to there. And so this week we're going to be talking about lung health. This is courtesy of a young lady who made a comment on one of our previous posts, so we want to give a shout out to them. They asked us, how do you support the lungs? And the lungs are an interesting animal because the lungs, in my world, I have a pretty distinct understanding of them because I grew up with big time lung problems. So the lungs are a reactive airway. Basically, they are susceptible to effects of the external environment plus the internal environment. Most people are unaware of how the internal environment is affecting the lungs, but we'll get into that a little bit. So I want to share with you 5 things that are important to understand. What are the functions? How to breathe, because most people don't know how to breathe at this point. What you can eat and what you can't eat that is going to affect your lungs. The brain stress that can cause your lungs to be an issue. And then, of course, there is a plethora of nutritional support you could possibly use if you needed to. So let's first talk about what the lungs do. If you have any understanding of what the lungs do, basically they take in oxygen from the air, and then they put out carbon dioxide. That's the simplest form you can look at it. So you breathe in air, and the air is only about 20% oxygen out here. Everybody thinks it's like, it must be pure oxygen. If it was pure oxygen, you'd be in a euphoric state. But you breathe in oxygen, it filters out the CO2 coming from the blood. So when the air comes in, oxygenates the blood, goes out through the body, comes back up, and then the CO2 gets dropped off, and then it gets dumped out of the body. So that's just a general idea of how the lungs work if you're unaware of it. How to breathe. First of all, there's a time when you want to breathe on stress breathing. Stress breathing is when you're breathing in your chest like, and you're raising your shoulders, and that's usually after exerting yourself, like strenuous activity, some type of cardiovascular activity, things like that. But what you don't want to do is walk around and breathe like that all the time, and use your what are called secondary breathing muscles, which is your shoulders, your traps, your scalenes, which are off your neck. Because if you're breathing in your chest, you're literally using your head as an anchor, and you're using the muscles from your neck to lift up your rib cage to expand and let the air fill in. Rather than if you're breathing into your abdomen, and you use this special muscle called your diaphragm, which is right about here, to fill your abdomen as you breathe in. So this, I don't know if you can see this, but you want to breathe into your abdomen. That should be your normal pattern of breathing. If you look at any baby who's not a fetal alcohol syndrome baby, not a crack addicted baby or something like that, every baby is breathing into their belly. So if you want to take a note about how to breathe, look at a baby. Babies know how to breathe. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth is the best way to do it, because then you can avoid dehydrating or drying out your mouth is really important. And so if you don't know, I grew up with asthma. I think I was diagnosed before the age of 3. I remember running around the church parking lot and getting myself into asthma attacks and having to be taken to the hospital for nebulizers and all kinds of other garbage. So having gone from being asthmatic to not being asthmatic I'm 41, I finally came out of asthma in my 30s, 35-ish, when I finally said, I won't take these medications anymore, I'm getting past this, I'm going to figure out a way. But it took a lot of work, right? So a lot of the airway is, as I called it before, a reactive airway. So the lungs are very susceptible to neuroemotional stress. They're very susceptible to inflammatory foods. They can be very susceptible to environmental things like dust, and there's more than one occasion when I was playing around in a hayloft and ended up going to the hospital with an asthma attack because of that. So different people have different triggers. So my triggers are not going to be the same as anyone else's. So understand that your triggers are going to be very unique to you, whether it's an airborne allergen or something like that, or something you've eaten. Touching on foods. Foods are very problematic. So processed corn, processed wheat, processed dairy, all 3 of those, and that's a good portion of the standard American diet, is going to mess up your gut. And in Chinese medicine, there's a large intestine-lung connection. It even goes large intestine-lung-brain connection. But when there's irritation in the digestive system, that will reflect into the lungs. Okay. Now, not everybody experiences the same things. So some people come from a little bit more stressed background. They're going to be more susceptible to this. Other people have less stress, but they still do get the occasional one. You've probably heard of people that are exercise-induced asthma. Other ones are full-blown asthmatics. Other people have to walk around with an EpiPen and asthma inhalers and stuff like that. So there are different levels of medications you might need, but When you understand the root cause of the problems with the lungs, then you can heal that and never have to take a medication again, which is fortunately what I've been able to achieve. So eating, think about eating anti-inflammatory foods, fresh cold water fish, things like that, things that are going to be healing your body rather than inflaming it. We already know that gluten, dairy, and corn are 3 really big problems as far as lungs go. If you're going to eat corn, eat fresh or frozen organic corn. So, but don't get it in a processed form. Try to avoid corn chips and things like that. Try to avoid flour-based products and things like that that are going to be causing you problems as far as inflaming your guts. So you can do things that are anti-inflammatory. The list goes on and on. I mean, we can get you a list of them. I'm not going to sit here and list off anti-inflammatory foods. You can Google that in 2 seconds. But I want to help you understand that what you put in your mouth will directly affect the function of your lungs. So if you have any type of issue with your breathing, pay strict attention or very close attention to what you're eating and how your body's reacting afterward. It might even take a while. I know toward the very latter part of my asthma experiences, I would eat something and 3-4 hours later, I would get that inflammation because it would get into my large intestine and start affecting me there. So you want to understand that you have to pay attention to your symptom pattern. If it seems random, then you need to start making a journal about this because you can find what's causing it. It's not rocket science. You just have to be diligent about finding that. If you're not a pattern person, write it down. From a neuroemotional standpoint, the level of irritation to the lungs can come from a lot of different areas in the body. But from the lung standpoint, a lot of people think of grief, like heaviness in the chest, grief. Certainly fearfulness, fear and or feeling timid are really going to affect the lungs a good portion. But everybody's reaction is different, right? So a lot of the large intestine is lack of control. So if you grew up in an environment where there was a lack of control and things didn't feel safe, that can affect how your lungs function. If you're probably not privy to that understanding, but small intestine can affect the lungs as well because it dumps everything into the large intestine. So if the small intestine's upset, maybe you're having trouble accepting a certain situation, a relationship, some type of your life, that can affect everything in the system as well, okay? So that will be helpful to understand. Nutritionally, it just depends on what your issue is. Is it mold and fungus? Is it a bacteria? It's very rare that it would be like a viral pneumonia or something but it happens. Parasites don't typically find their homes in the lungs, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. But I see a lot more bacterial issues there, occasional mold and fungus. So if you have a lot of phlegm and junk in your lungs, like you're walking into a walking pneumonia or something like that, you might need something like a Sezyme or an alicidin to break up the phlegm in your lungs. And I'm providing these specifically for the individual who commented on this because they want to know how to support them. Hopefully the information we provided before this is helpful, but this is going to be helpful as well. If it's a bacterial issue, Natozyme is really good for nanobacteria. Cleaning out the lungs from a standpoint of doing an HCl detox, it's really helpful. If you need the guide, you can just email us. We'll send the guide to you. HCl, really good at cleaning out the lungs. Supporting the lung tissue itself. Pneumovent is a great product for supporting the lung tissue itself. If it happens to be an allergic reaction, like a food allergy reaction, that's very common. Dehist, which I've been told to mention that this is on special this month, 20% off for allergies. Side note, I only really appreciate any allergy if it's anaphylaxis. If it's not anaphylaxis, it's really coming from an overreaction somewhere in the immune system. So getting back to our theme as of late, ditching the diagnosis. If you think you have if you think you have allergies, really think about where it's coming from in your body. Overreactive immune system in the gut, overreactive immune system in the liver, whatever it might be, something like that. But Dehist is really good for breaking down the symptoms. So you got the bromelain in there to break down the inflammation. The N-acetylcysteine, the stinging nettle, and the quercetin, those are going to help break up those mast cells, which creates a lot of the mucus junk coming out of your nose and things like that. But this is a fantastic product to help with that. Calming down inflammation in the body. We use clinicians' preferred oils. This is used to be called Parent Omegas, and basically it's a plant-based oil that breaks down into the omega-3s that your body needs in order to dampen that inflammation. So this is a very effective tool. You can go into homeopathics for the lungs, different bacteria, molds and funguses and virus, whatever it might be. But those are some helpful tools as far as understanding how to do that. But the whole thing is stop guessing. Stop going to CVS or Walgreens or wherever it is and guessing like, oh, I think I have this. We can tell you exactly what you have. Nothing can hide in your body. When you use biofeedback like we do in the body, it'll tell us everything we need to know and give you the absolute specificity on what you need to heal the fastest and without all the junk and dragging on symptoms and stuff like that. So just to recap. Lungs, function, O2 and CO2 exchange, basic, okay? Breathe into your belly. Don't breathe in your chest. Don't breathe into your belly. Okay, in through your nose, out through your mouth to maintain moisture in the mouth. Avoid inflammatory foods like gluten, dairy, and corn, processed corn. All those processed foods are really going to be troublesome. Cold water, fish, anti-inflammatory foods. Look up Google anti-inflammatory foods. There's a ton of them. Okay. Neuroemotional stress. You're thinking about feeling timid, fearful, even grief off the lungs. Okay. And then you want to understand the nutritional support. So whether you're doing anti-inflammatories, whether you're breaking down immune reactions, allergy reactions, supporting the lung tissue, breaking up mucus and stuff like that, there's all kinds of stuff. But stop the guessing game. Get the information you need to understand what you need to help yourself specifically, rather than spending who knows XYZ on ABC. You can get one or two things that would actually address the root cause and take out the guessing game. Okay, that's what we're here for. Eliminate the clutter, eliminate the guessing game, and help you have the absolute specificity and help you understand what your triggers are. So our job is to teach you. As a doctor, my job is to teach. Doctor means teacher if you look up in the Latin dictionary. Is to teach you how to help yourself. So that's what I believe in. That's what I live passionately for, is to help you, empower you, and help you understand how to help yourself in the future. So if that's your kind of gig, and that's because that's why you're watching, that's what we're here for. Let us know how we can help you. Do us and everybody else on this a favor and post below what you would like us to speak about, so we can be inspired by your topics and your ideas and where you have doubts. I'm more than happy to discuss what your problems are and what conditions you're dealing with, so that you can ditch the diagnosis and get back on track and actually feel well and enjoy life. So feel free to post a comment below with the question or topic you want us to discuss. Share with your friends and family so that we know we're providing good things for you. And then also provide the thumbs up if you like it. And honestly, I don't know if there's a thumbs down, but if you thought it sucked, let us know. Like, we're trying to get better. I want to provide information for you that is beneficial and not just simply me standing up here and talking about things that are relevant to people. So that's why we're always going to grab onto topics people post about. So feel free to do that. And if you have some type of feedback that you feel would help us serve you better, please type it below. We love feedback and we don't take it as negative, so it doesn't matter what it is, all right? So appreciate you guys' support, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week for the Wednesday Wellness Minutes. See you guys.